Today on CityCast Chicago, Governor J.B. Pritzker is running again. Plus, we're talking ice cream and neighborhood shout-outs. It's Monday, June 30th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Morning, Simone. How you feeling?
I'm doing okay. How are you, Jacoby?
I'm not out there complaining. Our big story is one that I don't think shocks anybody listening to this episode. Last week, J.B. Pritzker announced he is running for his third term. He did not state who his running mate is going to be just yet. As we all know, current Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton is running for U.S. Senate. Across his first two terms, he raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We got legal weed under J.B. Pritzker. He announced a record infrastructure program. And as the Tribune points out, most of that was just in his first couple years as the governor. Since then, he has had to see a pandemic. He, alongside other state and city officials, have had to deal with an influx of new arrivals and providing resources. We got assault weapons legislation on the books. In many cases, it's been a successful first two terms. Things are getting tough, right? We've extensively covered budget constraints, pressure from the federal government. But Simone, did you expect him to announce a third term or go straight to, the big one?
Yeah, I expected him to announce a run for third term because strictly because of timing. Just looking at the calendar, the Illinois gubernatorial election is in 2026 next year. However, you might be thinking, I thought Pritzker was maybe going to run for president. I've seen all this presidential speculation. Well, turns out that election's not till 2028. He can absolutely run for governor and then maybe decide later that he wants to run for president a couple years later. It's interesting because I think that timing element makes this question of who his running mate will be even more significant, because if he does choose to run for president, it will be the lieutenant governor who then steps in both while he's running and if he's elected to take over as governor. And we really have no idea kind of who that might be as of this moment. There's some speculation swirling.
Obviously, as second command, we're always evaluating the running mate, including Lieutenant Governor Stratton, as, if anything happens, they'd be the person to step up. But it does feel particularly urgent and will be something people will be looking at with a lot of criticism and a lot of skepticism. Justin Kaufman over at Axios Chicago last week floated a couple names that could be replacements, including Illinois Treasurer Mike Frerichs, Comptroller Susana Mendoza, and Attorney General Kwame Raoul. Of course, all of those positions are also on the 2026 ticket. And so a lot of movement in the last couple of weeks. Someone's sitting still here, but obviously someone else is going to have to fill that second in command position on the ticket.
It does feel like, compared to the last few elections, a lot of shifting, particularly at these statewide offices. I'm also thinking of the fact that, part of the reason we're even talking about this is because Juliana Stratton is running for the Senate seat that's about to be vacated by Dick Durbin, right? He announced his retirement. He's not seeking re-election in 2026. And so we have, for the first time in a while, a statewide Senate seat up for grabs. And some of the other Democrats that have already thrown their hats in the ring. You've got Rep. Robin Kelly and you've got Rep. Rajna Krishnamurti. And then, of course, we've also talked about what's going on in the 9th Congressional District. That's Jan Schakowsky's district up sort of North Shore, Evanston, and then out west, where Schakowsky announced that she's also not going to be running for re-election. We have a whole slew of folks running in that district as well. And it does seem like there is just a lot of moving and shifting coming up for this, particularly for the Democratic primaries, which of course will be in March of 2026, where a lot of this will be decided. Although for those statewide races, who knows? We'll see what the Republicans do if they put up if they mount a decent fight.
One connection I was going to make, because you mentioned Schakowsky, interestingly enough, when she first won that seat back in the late 90s, that was one of Pritzker's first campaigns. And I think he finished third in that race. And in his first two gubernatorial runs, he spent $350 million. Billionaire, sixth richest family in the country. And so I imagine that that's in some ways pocket change to them. But even though he faced competition from Bailey in the last race, this is a chance for him to become the first Democratic governor to win 3 terms in Illinois. People have talked and lauded response to COVID, codifying laws to make Illinois a safer state for people seeking reproductive healthcare resources, has enshrined LGBTQ protections. Ultimately, I guess my question is, do you think this is a record? Because I think it's a record that's going to easily win him a 3rd term. Do you think this is a record that he can successfully run for president? Because at this point, the money is not a question. I'd argue the Democratic bona fides and accomplishments aren't a question. His role in shoring up the state's finances, that's always the shot at Democratic leadership, is they don't know how to balance budgets.
When he got in office, the budget was in disarray, right? Right after,
off of a Republican governor.
So yeah, he's definitely got that going for him too. Whether or not that translates to any kind of national consensus or I think there's a couple things that work against Pritzker here. Number one, first and foremost, is simply just, I don't think people know who he is outside of Illinois.
I think he has a similar record in some respects to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
I think he just doesn't quite have the name recognition, I don't know, one of those old political cliches, like at the kitchen table, right? Or I don't know if people just are really kind of know who he is in their day-to-day life. That's the biggest thing. I think on top of that, the sort of second thing working against him is the Democrats just don't know who they are right now.
100%. Watching them right now, fortify an assault on Mom Donnie out in New York it's like talk about shooting yourself in the foot as you take steps backwards.
What are the Democrats? What is a Democratic record in the year of our Lord 2025? What is that? I think he has, right? Obviously, the Illinois Democratic Party as a party apparatus has quite a lot of power and, plays a big role in sort of the party apparatus writ large, I think still in many ways. And he has obviously maintained those relationships on some level. You have to. You don't get to be governor of Illinois without doing so.
I do think there, in many ways, there is still time for the ties to turn as we continue to talk about what will the next couple years of Illinois budgets look like? There was a lot of sour people over some of the cuts that took place in this year's budget, whether it was health care for immigrants, whether it was the lack of increased funding for education, for violence prevention efforts. People were still upset that even despite putting over $50 million in it, we didn't get a graduated income tax.
Well, and this gets to I think the third thing, the biggest thing that's up against Pritzker if he wants to run for president in 2028, which is a lot can happen in 4 years. Who knows what kinds of pressures Illinois will face, what kinds of pressures the country is facing, right, in the next 4 years. Who knows kind of what the sort of feeling of voters, and then how voters will be feeling, right? I think right now, as we're seeing in the mayoral election in New York, we're maybe seeing some backlash, right? A sort of progressive wave. How long is that going to last? Anything could happen. And as you point out, I think, this year, this budget fight that we saw in Springfield this year, I think was a bitter pill that was swallowable for a lot of progressives and for a lot of people. No one is questioning that there are massive budget questions. No one is sort of questioning that the pressure from the federal government right now is huge. And I think the feeling of the economy in general, there was a sense that, we weren't going to get everything we want. I think if this continues to happen year after year and under Pritzker's watch, people might be feeling very differently than they were a few years ago when things seemed to be looking rosy. We're starting to see some programming. We're starting to see some increased funding into these areas.
And some people will take that on both sides. His Democratic and Republican challenge will take that and say, in addition to these tightening budget fights, maybe folks can paint the picture that he's already one step out the door. And is that the kind of governor that you want to reelect? And so, as much as I do think this will be an easy road, I agree with you. A lot of things can happen between now and then.
I'll be curious to see if any Democrats choose to come out and oppose, if there will be a competitive primary for governor. I think we're seeing the shuffle. It's all kind of a big shuffle, right? You got lieutenant governor, you've got these congressional seats, you've got the Senate seat, all kind of up in the air, up for grabs, and everybody's kind of looking for their place right now. And it will certainly, again, by March 2026, we'll see where Democrats shake out, and then we'll see, again, what kind of opposition the Republicans can put up.
It's still hot as hell outside, and our friends over at Block Club Chicago did the entire city a solid when they put together this overwhelming but dope ass map of 100+ places to get ice cream, popsicles, gelato, Italian ice across the city. It's Chicago, and so it isn't the exhaustive list, but it's the best map I've ever seen on this.
This is true public service journalism at its finest. I think the trick about a map like this and why it's useful, because you might be thinking like, well, I know where I like to get ice cream in my neighborhood. I can walk out the door and go to whatever place. But the trick is when you're out with friends, you go out to a restaurant, you're going out to the beach, you're going out to whatever, and it's like the end of the night and it's still hot and you want a little dessert. And you're like, oh, let's get some ice cream.
You need to know what's by you.
You need to know where's the spot? Where are we going? Where are we getting that sweet little treat? And you need to know when they close, because a lot of spots, they close a little early. And so if you're wanting that last little bit of like summer ice cream, you need to know. And so that's why I am loving Block Club's map. They also have it in list form. It's searchable. They list, what kinds of things you're going to get. If it's just ice cream, if it's popsicles, if you've got mangonadas,
they got coffee and gelato or sorbet.
Yes, shakes, whatever it is that you might be getting. So all this, Jacoby, begs the question, what's your favorite spot? Where are you getting your ice cream?
That's a very good question. I think the last ice cream spot I had that I couldn't stop thinking about for a minute was probably Sean Michelle's over on, I think that's 47th Street. Let me see. It may be, Sean Michelle's over off 47th and Wabash. They got sundaes, cobblers, brownies, the banana pudding ice cream. I really enjoy that. My mama's famous Slap Your Son banana pudding ice cream.
You have talked about the Slap Your Son on this show before, because that name lives rent free.
Right in your head.
In my head. What is in that?
I think it's just a banana pudding ice cream.
Why? But why is it Slap Your Son?
Because it's good. Because it's always slap your mama, and my mama would never let me slap her, but she would definitely slap the hell out of me. They also got is that a peach cobbler brownie? What's that? Let me see. Lunchroom butter cookie, honey cinnamon graham cracker, pralines and cream. I like Sean Michelle's. I've talked about Richard before. The last ice cream I had, though, was like a week ago. I went to the Rainbow Cone on Division, and I got the Rainbow Cone ice cream cake for the first time ever.
Ooh, that sounds good. I bet I would like it more in cake form, actually.
Yeah, it was super frozen, so I took it with me, walked a little bit. It's fat. It was very good.
Yeah, it's looking at the map, it's interesting. There are like clusters of spots in like this like Ukrainian village, East Village, like you sort of getting it over to the river, like to the Kennedy. Like there's like quite a few, maybe half a dozen.
I was gonna say there's a good little cluster over on the southwest side with Auburn, Gresham, and Beverly. You got B&B's ice cream, which is great. You got Ohana Ice and Treats, which does Hawaiian shaved ice. You also, of course, got the original Rainbow Cone over there. And I think there's like maybe 3 more spots tucked into this little area. Jansen's Drive-In and Ain't She Sweet.
So that's after the rink, right? After you're at MLK, you head over.
I think a spot closer to the rink might be the original Michoacana over on 98th. I like the way you think about it, though. It's like, okay, what's over? Because I was thinking about Sean Michelle. Maybe you just went to the Harold Washington Cultural Center. Maybe you just took the Southside Art Trolley tour. maybe you were not too far from Carver 47. Like you might go to Sweet Drip if over on 53rd Street if you was coming from Promontory Point.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, because that's always the context in which I'm looking for ice cream. It's always I'm out at a thing, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, man, it's hot. I need some dessert. I need something sweet. I want something. I had this experience because I was in Ravenswood, and we were at a party, and everybody was like, it was hot, and we were all like, okay, we're done, but like we're not done with the night. Like, let's go get some ice cream. Ice cream would be really good. And we all wanted to go to Margie's on Montrose, but as it turns out, Margie's closes pretty early. But as it turns out, Teddy's on Montrose and Damon, so just up the street, was open until like 11:30. And so we walked in there along with like a dozen other sweaty Chicagoans who were all looking for ice cream at the same time, about 30 minutes before they closed. And props to Teddy's. They were so nice. They were so kind and so helpful. And they got everyone's orders. And because like, having a rush come in 30 minutes before you close is so irritating, is so annoying. And they were so nice about it. And everybody got their ice cream and we all got to go outside and hang out. And I made a mess with I got vanilla soft serve dipped in chocolate and it melted all over me and it was fantastic.
No, this map is great. They've got a map, full list, like you said, a breakdown. Oh, I got to give a shout out to Kilwins. I'm always going to pull up on Kilwins.
I know you love a Kilwins. Yeah, I was shocked the word Kilwins had not been uttered yet in this conversation.
Nah, I'm always going to stop in for Kilwins. I love the chocolate dip shortbread, and I love the Kilwins mud ice cream, which is really good. But we do have a place that we want to maybe add to the list. Anybody from Block Club want to throw it on, and it's part of our neighborhood shout outs. If you are a City Cash Chicago neighbor, that's our membership program, then we want to hear from you. What are the places in your neighborhood that you want to put people on? And it literally can be anything. A small museum, it can be a park, it can be a restaurant, a place you get your hair cut. We want to hear from you and add to our growing City Cash Chicago neighbors map. Simone, what are some of the shout outs today?
Yeah, so one of the shout outs, as you mentioned, Nicole R says, check out Greater Baking. They do cupcakes and ice cream and just expanded to serve breakfast. I'm so excited for the pistachio iced matcha. I love a pistachio iced matcha. Greater Baking is in South Shore. And yeah, as you said, basically what these are, right, are our neighbors, our members have the opportunity to shout out a local business, an organization, a nonprofit. And it's sort of one of the perks is we read them out every once in a while. And so if that is interesting to you, or if you want, say, ad-free listening, if you want invites to members-only events, then you should become a member at membership.citycast.fm. Speaking of members-only events, we also have a shout-out from our friend Mike McMains, who runs Tours with Mike and just led a members-only LGBTQ stories tour downtown that you were at, Jacoby. Mike is also shouting out Chicago Movie Tours, which offers an amazing tour of the Art Institute called The Art of Ferris Bueller. So fun. Can live your own little Cameron existential crisis moment if you so desire.
The last shout out was from Sean M. He wanted to give one to Avondale Gardening Alliance. They are one of the most effective groups in the neighborhood for bringing neighbors together to connect and build community.
I think that's not the first time we've heard that actually from a listener. The Avondale Gardening Alliance, they're doing some really cool work out there. Really like connecting with neighbors and bringing folks together, which I love. And it's gardening, which I also love.
I want to give a shout out to Plymouth Court Cleaners and Tailors. I've got a lot of things tailored over there in the last couple of weeks. Fantastic job. Amazing turnaround. Shout out to the owner.
Finding a tailor is one of those things that you can really only do through word of mouth.
Just got to try out a couple different places.
You got to, or you got to know somebody and they take you to their guy, right? Like that's just kind of how it is. So again, neighborhood shout outs, one of the perks you get as a City Cash Chicago neighbor. Join today, now, do it. Membership.citycast.fm.
I want to give a huge thank you to our executive producer, Simone Alisea.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
The Winnemac Park Advisory Council is bringing back their Fourth for All event for the second year in a row. It's going to take place starting from 10 a.m. through 10 p.m. They're going to have Full Moon Jam out there, a group of acrobatic fire spinners. They're going to have disc golf, food trucks, and so much more. I will drop a link in the show notes. Please come back tomorrow for our guide to July. We got some special stuff on there for y'all. Talk to you soon. Peace.